Good morning, and thank you for engaging with this assembly. This week's topic is civilizations, old and new. So there's only really one place that I can start, and that is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away in the land of Star Wars. Star Wars, a civilization, if you like, that many of us, of course, think is real. It's presented as an advanced society, an advanced civilization, for several reasons. Technologically, there's no lockdown, there's no limit on travel. You can only imagine what can be done in Star Wars land with technology. Culturally, it's advanced because there's extraordinary interracial and interspecies collaboration. Politically, it's advanced because there's an ever-present battle against the malevolent forces of dictatorship and autocracy. Morally, it's an advanced civilization because good is always fighting to overcome evil. And, spoiler alert, good in the end seems to win. It's a familiar civilization story when you think about it. And Star Wars is not the only long ago civilization of this type. J.R.R. Tolkien created Middle-earth as the setting for The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. There, a hero is plucked from obscurity, Frodo Baggins. They are also then gathered around a group of friends and allies from a different racial and cultural grouping. Legolas, Gimli, Aragorn, Boromir. Doesn't this sound familiar? A bit like Star Wars all over again? It gets better. They have to travel to the physical centre of their enemy's power to destroy them. Mount Doom for Frodo Baggins, the Death Star for Luke Skywalker. And along this journey, they're guided by an elderly man in a white beard who is a spiritual and magical figure who makes the sacrifice of their own life, but then comes back to continue guiding them. Gandalf or Obi-Wan Kenobi. Perhaps the darkness of The Lord of the Rings reflects the fact that it was the end of the Second World War in Britain and the Empire was in decline. Perhaps the boldness of Star Wars reflects the fact that it was the 1970s when it was created. And at that time, America's economy was booming and there was optimism about the end of the Cold War. These civilization stories are, of course, rooted in the most important civilization narrative at the center of the Western world culture, and that is the story of the New Testament. A man born into obscurity in a manger, whose life journey and ultimate sacrifice is based around his journey alongside his fellowship of disciples from various different backgrounds. The world of civilizations in this respect is not just old, of course. Some of these civilizations are projected into the future. Fans of Star Trek, not to be confused with fans of Star Wars, will of course champion that as a vision of a future civilization. A progressive vision created by Gene Roddenberry in the 1960s that gave us things like our first ever televised mixed racial kiss. However, when you look at Star Trek and Star Trek's world, there's a premise behind it which is also worth exploring. All of the universe's problems, according to Star Trek, can be solved by the application of logic, by the application of superior technology, and all under the guidance, at least from the first series of Star Trek, of an enlightened, charismatic, white Anglo-Saxon leader. You wonder how much some parts of the world have actually changed since the 1960s. So, then of course there are civilization stories about now. And by that, of course, I'm thinking of Harry Potter, aren't you? Harry Potter, the hero plucked from obscurity who has to destroy evil. That's his mission. He does so with an alliance of his motley crew of Fellowship of Friends, under the guidance and steerage of an older man with a white beard. These stories all seem to be the same. Now, at this point, of course, I'm starting to regret the fact that I've bought several versions of all these toys for my children. And if Admiral Akbar was here, he'd be saying, "It's a trap," and he'd be right. Now to the serious part, I suppose. Civilization is not a description of now being better than then. It's not a description of us being better than them. It's actually a reflection on how humans, Muggles, Wookiees or Elves, respond as individuals and as a community to challenges in ways that move their community and themselves forwards. I can't think of a better time to remind ourselves through the stories of fiction, through the stories of faith, or the stories of our fellow human beings, that we are civilized because we meet challenges of all shapes and sizes with our values at mind, and perhaps most importantly at the moment, with compassion. I hope you have a really good week. Be civilized to yourselves and each other. And I'm off to return all the toys that I was going to use as props for this videos to my children. Have an excellent week. Bye-bye.